Recording from Sandy, Utah, you're listening to Idiot to Genius. Hello, my name's Steph Schull.
And I'm Utah Todd with the Sure Group at eXp Realty. Each episode focuses on individuals that found themselves desiring more. If you're feeling like an idiot, join the club. Tosh, Kysie, it is so great to have you here. I've checked out your website. I've checked out the product that you're bringing to the table, the service that you're bringing to the table. Exploring Not Boring. It's just phenomenal. It just gives such an opportunity for people to be able to have a view of a local community and to be able to see those little places that are just not commonly known. And boy, does it just provide that service for those that are coming into the community, those that are in the community. And I've been looking forward to this opportunity for us to be able to meet and to be able to go over how this all came about. Is there a story behind that as far as how you got into that Exploring Not Boring, coming up with the idea, the concept? What's the story there?
Yeah, it's a big story. It's molded and evolved over the years, but it started back in 2020, actually in Dana Point, California, where we were staying at the time. And we would take a lot of long walks to what we called the ocean view, even though there was no view of the ocean. Someone told us that, and so it became that name. But we would no view. We would take long walks all the time, just talking about what do we want to do? Because around that time, we were both in a toxic work culture. We enjoyed the work, but not necessarily the culture around the work. And it started to evoke questions like, is this how we want to exchange our lifetime? Like, is this the thing we want to do? What are we more passionate about? What would we enjoy more? And we realized through these conversations that we are thriving when we're experiencing new things and when we're connecting with cool people. And so we started to talk about how can we do that more often? And if we did that, it would be evident that the byproduct would also enable other people to do the same thing. So that's where the conversation began. Of okay, well, what is this thing? What are we going to name it? And that's when Case came up with the name Exploring Not Boring.
And prior to this too, so like she said, there's a lot of moving parts. And how did this actually transpire? And when we think back, we're like, which one happened first, right? Because it kind of all happened intertwined together. But we were new to California. Our job is what took us both there. We're adventurous people. We like to do things indoors, outdoors with fun people. And so I had taken the time to research what I felt was everything from Dana Point to Los Angeles area and made this adventure jar. I had over 200 ideas of spontaneous things for us to do. It was color coordinated. So you could kind of play off of your feelings today. Do I want it to be in water? Pull a blue one. Do I want to spend a chunk of change and experience something? Pull a green one, right? So I had really curated that. And that was something we talked about turning into Exploring Not Boring, these customized jars for specific cities. But then, that comes with a lot of products and inventory, and it wasn't quite the direction we wanted to take it. And so like Tosh was saying, through conversation one night, we came up with the name Exploring Not Boring. What was said before that name, we have no idea, because once we said it, we're like, that's it. Whatever that is, that's it.
And we plugged it into Google to see if it was available as a domain, and Google was like, it rhymes. This is great. And we were like, cherry on top, we'll take it.
That's really how it got started. From there, we really didn't know what we were doing with it. We were just we know we like experiences and connections and things that don't turn into tourist traps or a time waster, right? After we got the name down, we started going to the park and just drawing on a piece of paper, what's the logo going to be? What actually shows Exploring Not Boring? Which now, if you've seen our logo, it's really a happier, better world. Right? It's a spin-off of a planet and what we're really trying to achieve with it, with our mission here. And then from there, we thought, well, we need an Instagram, right? Everyone needs an Instagram page.
We just started with TikTok. Hey, we started with an IG.
We did. And we started posting on it and, kept it super low key. We didn't tell anyone. We didn't know what we were doing with it. But then at work, people would be like, hey, I know what is Exploring Not Boring. And we'd be like, what?
How do you know about
what are you talking about? And they were finding us, right? Because Instagram recommended our page to them.
And basically overnight, Exploring Not Boring became a noun, a verb, and an adjective. And it was really interesting because at the time, I was the COO, Kysie was running the sales floor, and we didn't want this to be out there.
Yeah.
And it was already out there because they found our IG and people started coming up with ideas oh, this would be exploring, not boring. If you caught a flight randomly and spontaneously flew to another place, and we're like, you're right, that is. Like, it became a common word within inside the company we were working at. And that's when we started to figure out, like, okay, where are we going to go with this? Like, it's people like it, you know, they enjoy what we're building. What are we going to build? And we didn't know until about like, what, 2 years ago. So 2 years into the journey, we started to really figure out where we were going to go by talking to the people we wanted to help.
Wow.
Okay, so this is cool because you're working at this other company. So you were the COO, and Kelsey, what were you doing at that company?
I was leading the sales team.
You were leading the sales. So you're not wanting your coworkers to find this page, but they are. And I think that's so relatable because so many people start stuff and they're like, I'm just gonna put this out there, but like I really hope that no one that I actually know like discovers it. But then them finding it sounds like that gave you guys like encouragement of, oh, okay, these guys are really liking it.
Absolutely. And, you know, it did start to show us, though, like, because we started Instagram, everything Exploring Not Boring was at the time was like an influencer, right? We were giving you ideas, trying different things. And we're like, wait, hold up. We don't want to be an influencer. Like, social media and us we're not the bestest of friends, if you will.
We only do it for business.
Yeah, it's a business tool at the end of the day. So that's really where we were like, okay, people are catching on to it. Like, what are we going to do? And we had some friends who were, you know, rad locals doing really cool things that either it was a side gig or they had ditched what they were doing and went all into this thing that they were so passionate about. And talking to them, they were like, I need help marketing. And I could just really use your help on getting the word out. Right. And that was really all they had to say about like, how could someone like us who's thrilled about what they're doing help them?
Our first site was actually on Wix, and it was kind of like a directory. You couldn't really do anything on there. It was just like you could see what was available. So it wasn't really that helpful. And the reason why it was like that is because it didn't have the complexity in booking that we needed to support our partners at the time. And that's when we started to think like, oh, we need something else. We can't use Wix. Like, we need a better booking system. And so we started to look into different tools and online spaces that we could use to like help them with marketing. That's where it really began. And the more we dived in deeper, that's when we realized that what we're building is actually the ugly word for it is a peer-to-peer double-sided marketplace. And so we didn't know that to begin with, but that's essentially what we were trying to do. And the more we went down that road, this is kind of like that idiot to genius thing we were just chatting about, right? Like, we didn't know what we were building, but once we got the term, we could dive deeper into the technology that exists around that. And then we could figure out that the only way to do what we were trying to do is actually to custom build it, because no one's blending the experiences we're blending. Like, nobody's doing that. So booking systems are really complicated. They usually fit in one lane.
Like a class, an event, or, you know, like a meeting, a one-off. And it's typically very singular. You have platforms like Calendly who can do a little bit of all of it, right? But they don't feed off of a payment system and the whole 9 yards. So customization was something crucial we ran into right off the get of this idea here.
Yeah. And that's what kind of like led us to start doing our own custom build and building out our marketplace. And now we realize that we're pretty smart about, you know, marketplaces and booking systems. But when we began, we were not the smartest. We didn't even know the name of it. But now we're pretty fluent and can have some technical conversations about it because we built one. Yay!
Okay, so this like boggles my mind because I guess I just didn't realize what your guys' company was until as you were talking, I just pulled up your Instagram and then pulled up your website. You have the sourdough workshop. Everything has like how much it is. And so then when you click on it, then you can buy it right there.
Yep.
This is cool.
A lot of things you'll find that are local, and that's really what kind of sent us down this road is like we kept running into tourist traps. Yes, we were in California, so like that did play into it. But being from Salt Lake, we're both from the area. We grew up here. We didn't know of anything that you could just like you were saying, you see the price, you can buy a ticket real quick, and then you're done, right? Typically, you have to like find it on a different site, a blog. It takes you to a company page, and you have to figure out, am I going to get this ticket in person? Am I going to buy it on this? And that doesn't exist really locally for people. It exists, of course, across the tourism industry. You find a lot of platforms that you can do this for, But as a local, like, I'm not trying to be a tourist in my own city. Though there's a lot of cool things that tourists get to see about our city, there's just things that I'm like, either I already know or I don't care about, because that's not what's cool about this place. So how can we make it so easy for you to, like, I want to switch on my date nights. I want to take my group of friends, and instead of doing a backyard barbecue, which is awesome and so much fun, but we want to, like, go try something together. How can we make that as simple as possible, but also, like, you're not going to be disappointed? Like with the sourdough bread making class, I was stoked on this, and surprisingly, I'm not a cook or anything, and Tosh was excited because it's a new partner, it's a new experience, but she's like, okay, we'll make sourdough bread. Like, I already know how to bake. Coming out of that, she hasn't stopped making it, and it's been like 9 like, seriously, if you guys want some bread, call us.
I got dough in the freezer, I got starter in the refrigerator, we got bread on the counter. I have dough outside on the counter rising right now, so we can make sandwiches. And it's the coolest thing about it is Jordan's really passionate. He's the one that leads the sourdough workshop, really passionate about health and about sharing knowledge. And you're not just learning how to make sourdough, you're making sourdough in 3 ingredients that have no preservatives. So you go to the grocery store, you're going to see these 3 ingredients plus other things to keep it fresh on the shelf for months after months, right? But when you're making bread, you don't need those preservatives because you're going to eat it quickly. And really, after this workshop, we were talking to one of our other partners, Nikki. She does like really cool like circus shows. Yeah. And she was like, oh, I was thinking, like, what skills do I have to get into a community if there's ever an apocalypse? And I'm like, that's funny. I can now make bread. Yep. Let me through the gates.
I'll make bread for everyone.
I'll feed everyone. And so his class just keeps on giving and giving. We gave out bread for Christmas. We've given it to all of our neighbors. We have it, my aunt comes and gives us fresh eggs and we exchange it for fresh bread. So it's enabled us to have these experiences we wouldn't have had if we didn't go learn that skill from someone who already knows it. And that's a big piece of what we're building is like our platform, Steph, as you were checking out, loads of cool things. You can book them right there. But the key is they're all uniquely local experiences. So they're going to be enriching. They're going to be with someone who's passionate about what it is they're teaching you. They're intimate. And you can switch up, what you do with your family. Maybe you guys go bowling or just out to eat is like the common thing you guys spend time together. Well, now you can go and learn a skill. Now you
do the drums.
Yeah, you can go to the drum shed and just like bang out on a drum kit you don't have at your house. It's all really cool stuff that it's hard to find because they don't know marketing. They're not passionate about marketing. Sometimes they don't have the resources or the time, just like us. They're entrepreneurs. And so it's hard for them to get above the noise of bigger commercialized brands that have marketing resources. So unless you know someone, you're likely not going to hear about them. It's like a personal referral type of situation. And so we're acting as basically a personal referral for all of these local experts so that you know where to go. You have one spot. You can find whatever it is you're looking to do to mix up your night or mix up your weekend and connect with the people you love in different ways and meet new friends while you're at it. So that's really what we're trying to build and what you'll find on exploringnotboring.com.
So for people that are like, hey, like I would love to like partner, like what does it cost? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's actually free to sign up. So we've really set it up to make it as accessible as possible. And we do what's called a revenue share model. So we set up for free. And then for any ticket you actually sell on the platform, there's a 10% revenue share that we have in place that goes back into the platform to essentially market you. So again, if you run a free event, then it's completely free. You're constantly looking for things to do, especially on the weekends. You're not always trying to pull your wallet out for it. And so that's another part of our platform that we want to support free events, because not only that, for these partners, sometimes they have a free event to then lead to a very small, intimate one for the people that actually really want to do it, right? Like a one-on-one drum lesson versus a big group, come smash a drum class.
So like there's seasons here, right? For some people, what they do is only in the summer or only in the winter, and having to pay a subscription when they're not bringing in income can be really hard and challenging. So our business model is really based around the people that we're working with and trying to make it incredibly accessible so that those who are seeking things to do, we have free events for. We have low ticket items. Those who are seeking to sell really cool things can also get involved for free immediately. And like Case was saying, it's a revenue share model. So we earn when you earn.
You have such positive energy. Seriously, it's like big time. And that's why I said to you guys, right when I met you, we had only been talking for a short period of time. I said, you have got to come on to our podcast.
When we talk about the beginnings, when we're like, I don't know which part came first, it's because we're constantly shooting off the cusp at each other. And so it's like this idea, right? And like, how can we just have more fun with life at the end of the day? That's our goal. And so a great partnership definitely came together when we weren't having fun with life, and appreciate the compliment on that, because that's something we strive to not only show with our brand, but with ourselves, because that's what life is about, right? Like if you can make it fun and positive, then everything seems to fall into place when it's like that.
It really, really does. And especially right now, at the world that we live in, having that positive attitude, that positive approach can, you stand out automatically because of the doom and gloom that so many people are focusing on, versus the opportunities and the growth opportunities, and to be able to, in reality, as the world goes on and the world goes the direction that it's headed, I believe it's going to be our finest hour. I really do. And I think that really those with the entrepreneurial spirit, they're the ones that are going to bring us back to reality. They're going to bring us back to where the world really is, where the world really needs to be. The majority of the people out there are positive. They really are. It's just that the scope, the media, the way that they, what do you want to say, present everything. No, all you got to do is look at the people around you, the people you interact with. There is a heck of a lot more positive people out there than what you see when you're looking at the media, when you're looking at what they're telling us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that's important to surround yourself with events and people and things that give you perspective on the world. Because like you were saying, if you go to the media, they have things to sell. They're competing with other media. So they're trying to go for that shock and awe. But when you're actually out there in spaces, like you get a completely different vibe. And so networking is one of the things that we've been doing this year more than ever. And that's been like a huge resource for us. Totally. Just being around other people who are inspiring and have experience and are interested in sharing information has been a big resource to keep us going and to like point us in the right direction. I'm curious, do you guys go into any network events or any spaces that, give you ideas and kind of mold your existing ideas a little bit?
Oh, every week, actually. There's an event that I attend almost every week, and really, I'd encourage you guys to go there. But it's real estate oriented, but it's a totally a group effort, for connections and everything else. That's what it's all about. The title of their group is Real Estate Connection, Recon. And it's in Kaysville every week, every Wednesday, 12 o'clock noon. If you guys want to come and just check it out and you can promote it, that kind of a thing, it's phenomenal. It's a group of guys that put it together, and there's 4 of them, and but it's not about them. That's the thing. It's so awesome about it. Just like you guys, it's not about you. This is not about you. This is much bigger than you two. This is as far as your vision. And they were the same way, that it's not about them. They don't have to be the center spotlight at all. They're out there to promote other people's businesses and so forth, other people's ideas, and it's just phenomenal. It's a phenomenal group.
That's awesome. So we'll have to swap you events. So you said that was every Wednesday at noon?
At 12 o'clock noon.
So every Wednesday at 9 a.m., we go to what's called 1 Million Cups in Salt Lake, 1MC for the insiders. Very cool event. And it's all the cool people in Salt Lake that are either trying to collaborate or build something or aspire to be something. They meet there, and the format is like 2 people will present and kind of pitch their business idea. So insightful, incredibly insightful, and really phenomenal networking. So you come to 1MC with us, and we'll
No, I will. I've never heard of it. Seriously.
Oh, you'll love it, Todd.
You'll love it. It's definitely been really cool to see. Like, we already know, you hear in the media all the time, Utah's like #1 for
starting a business,
being hired, whatever it may be. But when you're actually at 1MC, it's really cool because their biggest rule is like, you're not here to pitch each other. Like, that's not why we're in the same room together. And there's some serial entrepreneurs in that room, and just starting out entrepreneurs. And you would never guess that there's any competition between that, right? In some rooms that we've been other places, there have been. It's been fun to see in Utah particularly that most events like 1MC, and I'm sure Recon is similar, is that everyone here is trying to help each other. Like it's a collective mindset we have here in Utah. When we first started Exploring Not Boring, like and it still is our pie in the sky dream, but we want to be in every city, right? But we're really focused here in Salt Lake. One, it's our hometown. Two, we heard on the road that if you're going to start a community business, you should intertwine yourself with the community. Whether we're at a business event, one of the more fun local events, we keep coming across the same thing, and that Utah, we're awesome. We have each other's backs, and it's a really cool place to meet like-minded people and get the support you need, really. And that's what we keep finding, particularly at 1MC, but really any business event that we've attended over the last 6 months. It's community driven here, and it's refreshing.
Do you guys ever let people that are doing like webinars or online events on your platform as well?
We do, yeah. That's an aspect you'll find in person, and that's something we're really trying to lean into, right? Since COVID, it's a need of people's to be in person. But out of COVID came the realization that, like, hey, I can connect with people whenever, wherever. Like you're saying, you can slide it in a lot easier to your schedule too. So you'll find online events right now. Like one is with a lady out in Japan who teaches you origami and the tradition behind that. So definitely we encourage online experiences because there is a level of connection that we've been able to reach through it that we want to embrace on our platform for sure.
Yeah, because even more than just like not having the time, some people don't have the resources to even go to Japan or go to Australia or go to Brazil. So being able to create those culture trips virtually is really awesome. It also gives even kids an opportunity to learn about culture and other people's history with incredible access. So even though earlier we were joking that like social media is not for us, we only do it for business, online tools have their benefits, right? They have their cons and access is one of the biggest pros of both social media and online experiences. And so we will definitely always support online experiences, even though we're really excited to push for in-person because you get a different vibe when you can read body language, when you can feel another person's energy, when you can, good joke and punch them in the shoulder, like it's a different human experience. But we love our online partners because they provide incredible access to what they're doing to everyone around the world. And that's unparalleled. So we have online experiences, online activities, and online events that you can find on Exploring Not Boring. And I would highly recommend checking out Nolene Casateri. She's one of the illustrators behind some of your favorite childhood cartoons like Winnie the Pooh and Scooby-Doo, the Bernstein Bears, Popeye. Ones like Kysie had mentioned, the origami. Manami puts that on, and she does a really cool job at teaching you the cultural significance and the history of origami, which not everyone knows. And we also have another online partner, Gene. He'll teach you how to draw anime, which is very popular. And so it's kind of cool to be able to draw your own anime characters. So lots of things on there for anyone who's looking to do something, whether you just want to do it from the comfort of your home or you actually want to get out into the community and connect with other people.
And that's another thing, like hybrid events are a big thing. Like 1MC, for example, if you can't go at 9 a.m., they broadcast it. So if you can't make it, that is another avenue we've seen a lot of more in the networking space incorporate, but it's totally possible. So being able to support that, because again, time is of the essence, and driving across Salt Lake is not a 10-minute drive anymore, right? It's 30, 45 minutes. So Draper and Salt Lake used to be neighbors. We're no longer neighbors, it feels. And so definitely it'll be a big piece moving forward of that we see of hybrid events coming up a lot more if possible. So
right.
And I think that's the thing that I love about Utah, like what you guys were saying, is that people really do want to help each other. And Todd's always talking about abundance mindset. And there is so much of there's enough for everyone. And so it's fun because like Utah is, I know like even I complain about traffic. I hate my commute, but then it's so cool that like we just got voted like the best place to have a business, just recently. And people are coming to Utah because they love it. So it's cool to live in a place where it's like, yeah, Utah is the place, like Utah is the place and to be proud of where we live.
Absolutely. And, so I went to college in Kansas, and, I would always say Utah's been cooler than Kansas. And when we got there, they would be like, "You're going to Utah? What is that place?" And now I have friends who have either been here or they hear about us on the news, and they're like, "Wow, I didn't know so much about Utah." And I'm like, "I told you the whole time, like, Utah's the place to be." So it's fun to see it now, like 10 years later, being like, people are like, "Yeah, okay, I get it. Now you're from Utah. I get why you thought it was so cool." And I'm like, "I was telling you, like, you gotta come here."
It was just we didn't have Instagram where everyone was seeing everything, all the cool hikes, all the cool stuff. Now the secret's out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like bittersweet because all of our like favorite hiking spots are now like have parking lots, and you have to go find a new off the path trail, and like places where I grew up had orchards, and now those orchards are apartment complexes named Orchard on 19th. So there's a lot of shifts, which is good. It's great for the economic growth, but it's also a little bit sad because I'm like, oh man,
Right.
the secret sauce.
Yes. And really, COVID put that on steroids big time. It just blew the lid off of it.
Yeah. Did you know some people referred to themselves as COVID hikers? Like they didn't like hiking before, but then when COVID hit and there was nothing else to do, they're like, oh, nature is actually really great.
No, I had no idea. I've never heard that term at all.
We hear it sometimes that we're like, "Oh, do you hike?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm a COVID hiker." I'm like, "Just call yourself a hiker." You're a hiker.
So we talked a little bit about, some of the idiot moments with getting like the website up and going. Just those, you were a commoner then. You didn't know what you know now. What are some other of those moments of that you're like, yeah, well, like this was one of those moments that we didn't know what we were doing?
Well, we definitely have a couple of those for sure. So when we first started this, the first website, like going back to that, like I have marketing background and website background, but not like build your own background, right? And so we didn't know we needed a marketplace yet. Back to this part, and I'd launched our first website and was like, let's quit the job, and like no plan in place, no nothing. She had already left the company that we were at together. And then when we figured out we had a custom build, money became an issue. Like we were like, oh, we didn't, think this through. We thought we had the build. We thought we could do this. And so got super resourceful, started our own window washing company and tried a roofing gig that summer. So lots of kind of like, if we need money, we now know how to pop things out to make that happen. So that was something we learned early on. Like finances have to be planned to build a tech product. So how are we going to actually make our own money to bootstrap this? And that was like within the first 2 months of it really becoming like, we're doing something with this business. We learned that right away. So we're not quite geniuses all the way on this front, but we definitely are not scraping like we were for a few months. Like, what are we going to do about this? And now actually have, that side of the business figured out.
I think the recommendation is you should have 70% of your income like being had by your side hustle before you quit. Like stick to that recommendation unless you got a hustle bone and you want to, have side hustles while you're building the thing. Because the first couple of years we were grinding like crazy. Like she said, started the window washing business. We were also doing roofing for a friend. We also had like a lot of other little things that kind of got us along the way. And at one point, which is what I was going to say is one of our biggest idiot moments, is we went on this road trip and it was a 411-day long road trip. And that's not an idiot thing. That was fantastic.
That was awesome.
But where we were going with the business before that road trip, we weren't clear on. We didn't have a vision like that was really articulated to understand the path we needed to go. And so when we left on this road trip, we were kind of just like, well, what else are we going to do? Like, let's do this road trip. We'll go meet up with our partners. We'll talk to them, kind of understand their pain points a little bit better. That was genius. That gave us a lot of direction on where we needed to go. And at the end of that road trip, we realized that like, even though the pie in the sky dream is we want to build Exploring Our Boring in every major city and elevate the local experts there so that, residents have really cool, enriching things to do and can kind of break from the mundane and build more skills. We have to do it in one place right now. We have to have boots on the ground because we did get some pushback on like yeah, I'd be happy to do that. When can we meet up? And it's like, oh, we're across the nation. And then they're like, okay,
Right.
let me know when you're here. And it's like, you're right. We should be in one community, building it there. And then from there, we can expand out. If you look into marketplaces, most marketplaces, that's exactly how they have to start, is in one place. They're like one of the only marketplaces to do so successfully, like building a global business right off the bat, is like Thumbtack. But Airbnb, they're global now, but they started in San Francisco. So really, like, dialing back our vision to start in one place was where we got smarter what we were doing. And we had a mentor. He gave the example. I can't think of the ship right now from Star Wars, but he's basically like, if you want to build that big ship in Star Wars, someone out there will know what I'm talking about. He's like, you got to start with one piece. Like, you can know what it's supposed to look like, but you got to start with one piece, and then you start building the ship out. And so our road trip really did give us a clear vision on where we wanted to go, and the best way to get there. And so we got off that road trip a little over a year ago now. We came back here and decided to plant roots, and now we've been here for a little over a year. And it's been a world of a difference to actually be in the community where we're working with these partners, and to be able to go and experience their events or their activities, or see them make their products in person. It gives us a much bigger perspective than whatever we can find online and whoever we can talk to online about it. And so it allows us to vet what's on our site in a more personal capacity, while also building more, like, a stronger relationship and more rapport with the individuals that we work with. And it gives us really phenomenal insight that it's invaluable. So that was one of our biggest, I think, idiot to genius moments for sure.
On that road trip, was there somebody that helped you walk? Was it just the journey itself, or the road trip itself, and you two being able to collaborate, or was there other people that came in and kind of added another flavor to the whole discussion that made you have the aha moment, get the epiphany?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I don't think we've ever thought about it like that, because our partners are definitely a piece of that pie. But we did this thing called Trusted House Sitters. It's a marketplace that you can essentially find homeowners that need their house sat, pet sat, whatever. And the exchange is you get a place to stay while you're there, right? So this helped us get really local really fast, because we were staying at a local's home, and they'd have this whole guide, we tell them about Exploring Not Boring, and they're like, you got to go see all these things. And so we instantly got to see their perspective of their city. Most of the time, the people we fortunately stayed with had been people who grew up there, right? They built a whole life for 40 plus years in this area. So we really got to learn, like, how things have changed. And I would say interacting with them really showed us the lack of resources for finding local things to do. Because even the things they were recommending to us, probably only 2 of the 10 were like, wow, thank you. I needed to know you for this. But the rest, I'm like, you put one Google search in and this botanical garden pops right up. This aquarium pops right up, right? There are all those things that you already know exist there. And so that was really insightful to be able to stay and get this kind of white glove experience into a local community, not only through the people that we were partnering with, but just through these locals we got to stay with and kind of take over their life for a week or two at a time, and see that they are just as much lacking as Salt Lake, as California was, right? And this was across the whole southern coast of the United States. So between interacting with our partners in these different states and knowing, like, hey, marketing is solidified. It's not just 1 or 2 people saying this, it's every single person we talk to in very different locations. Also, community is solidified. They want us here. They want us to be a part of their community dream. But then also, like, this just doesn't exist. It's not there yet. And so that was kind of that aha moment when we would get these lists from these locals. I'm like, this isn't local. Like, this is what everybody knows about. Like, tell me the hole in the wall opportunities. Come on, you here for 40 years. You got to know it. And they just didn't most of the time. So that was really eye-opening to be like, okay, we're on the right track. We just need to plant our roots and grow it now.
Yeah, so I got to ask, Tosh, Steph, when you guys want to do something, like, where do you currently go to find something to do right now?
Online.
Yeah. I feel like, I'll, like, search Instagram. There's certain pages that have stuff. But, like, it's all in different places. It's not in one place. Like, sometimes because I love seeing comedy shows. So then I have to go like look at the comedy, or like even I'm going to like what is that one the government had the government Utah has that's like now playing Utah or something. But I feel like a lot of those are pricey or not really that interesting. So I really like that this is at a local level, and that you guys like know the people that are on your platform. Like you said, it's that referral.
Yeah, it creates a very niche network, which I think is really important because kind of like what you're talking about, Steph, is like if you have a resource, there's also like 40,000 options. And everyone knows the study with the jam, right? Like the more options that you have to choose from, the more decision paralysis that you have. And then you're like, oh, well, I wanted to do something. But 2 hours later, after sorting through all of these things, I'm just going to turn on Netflix. I'm done. You know? So like if you have a minimal options of really cool stuff, you might still end up in the same position if you're very indecisive because they're all cool. So you're like, which one to choose? But at least you know that they've been vetted and it's a curated platform. So like you're going to find something there that's going to be enriching. If you can just be daring to try something new, like you're going to have a good time. And you don't have to filter through 40,000 options before you find one. The very first page, you're going to be like, yeah, that's interesting. Let me try that.
Well, and the number one, when I said online, that's not really true. What I usually do, it is online. I go to my social media or to my friends, a certain group, and I say, hey, I'm going to be in Roy, and I want to go to a restaurant. What's a restaurant you'd suggest for Roy? And they'll tell me. Yeah, I mean, hey, you got to try this one, or you got to try that one. And I love doing that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Trying something new, that I haven't done before. Actually, I look forward to it. And the holes in the wall, those are the places that they usually have the very best food. The very best food you can get is just this. From the outside, you're looking at it and you're going, do I even dare eat here? And then when you go in, it's like, wow, it's awesome.
Yeah, you picked my hometown, Todd, of Roy's. So next time you're looking for something to do there, you just tag me. I'm your gal.
Is that really where you're from? Is Roy?
Yeah, I'm from Roy, actually. I'm like, what made you choose that? Interesting.
It's just permeating my soul. Roy is the one I've got to pick.
Well, in wrapping up, I wanted to ask you guys a question, and this is more with your future self. So let's look 3 years down the road. Like, what do you hope that this has turned into? How do you hope it's helped people? Have you expanded to other states? What's your sort of plan for the future?
Yeah, so you know how earlier, Steph, we were talking about AI and how awesome AI is as a tool, but it also kind of has this interesting
evil side, if you will,
potentially, right? Yeah. Like it makes it so that it's harder to tell what's authentic and what's not, right? You're like, well, that is AI, is that not AI? Like nowadays you can clone a person essentially in AI,
right?
And it looks pretty good. There's like a few things that you're like, oh, that's fishy, and that's going to continue to become a thing. It already was rampant last year, and it's going to continue to get better and better and better. And I see as we continue going forward that it's going to create more of a need for human connection and more of a need for wanting to understand, what's authentic and like have those soulful experiences. And so even within 3 years, that could be a big dilemma where the loneliness epidemic has grown even more because now you can have AI friends that you talk to, and people are going to crave that human connection that we are built for and wired for. And so I would say, and in case I'd love to know your thoughts on this too, but like I would say in the next 3 years that we have, our roots strong here in Salt Lake, but we've also started to expand outside of Salt Lake and bringing our mission and vision to other places that are going to need us just as much as Salt Lake, especially as we continue to become more divided and possibly unhappy as a human species with these artificial experiences and connections that we're building through online mediums that Explore Not Boring, what we're doing with connecting people with inside their own communities and making it easier to make friends in a real authentic way becomes more and more desired, and really helps us to ramp up our trajectory and our ability to scale outside of Utah. Because yeah, our vision is global, and we have to start small because it's just the two of us right now. We're bootstrapping this whole thing, and we've done a phenomenal job, I think, in this journey. But it will be fun to find others who are also just as passionate about this type of positive impact that can help to fuel what we're doing and ramp it up, because as time goes on, it's going to become more and more necessary, I think. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. And 100%, that's actually something we talk about daily right now is, hey, how can we continue to find very soulful and very connected experiences? Because we saw this after COVID, and not meaning to even talk about that period so much, but people were craving human interaction. We're at events in 2024 and they're like, oh, I love that we can like see each other, you know, like it really hurt people. And so to imagine what life is going to be like in 3 years is kind of crazy, because like Tosh was saying, like ChatGPT was massive last year, and how many more have come out in that time, you know? iPhones, they only took 5 years to really ramp up to where they're about today, right? They got even better and better, but that was only 5 years, and AI is a lot faster than what smartphones were. And so we're continuously looking at where this is going to go, because when we first started this, yes, it was for our desire for connection and experiences, knowing that more people probably have this desire as well. But as we've really, you know, peeled back the layers, done our market research on this, is that this mental health issue that has only risen over the last few years, it's getting worse and worse. And one of the biggest impacts they're tying it back to are these digital devices that we have, right? Because we're scared to call our doctor's office. We're scared to, you know, call the roofer because I need to do something. Instead, I'm like, let me text you. And then I don't trust you because I'm texting you, and I don't know if you're real behind those screens. And those are things we've actually been dealing with in industries that you don't hear the phrase AI pop up for a while, is that people really do care about that personal touch. So how can we bring that to light here? And so in these next 3 years, that's going to be our biggest focus, is human connection and bettering our world, because we didn't get here with one person's idea, right? We got here with everyone's idea. And without collaboration, we suffer. And so these next 3 years, we'll be diving into that deeper than what originally our brand and our mission already just lends itself to, but really putting a highlight on that, because I know that when we're out connecting with friends, even our not extroverted friends, right? Our introverted friends will leave an experience with us and they're like, I got to do more of that. That was like all my social cup today. So I'm going to go. I'm like, okay, no worries, right? Like, no worries. Like, even their face when they're saying it, they're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. I got to go because I'm an introvert. I got to get out of here. But they're like, are jumping out of their skin for how happy it made them.
Yeah.
How in 3 years, absolutely established there in Salt Lake, moving into California, moving into Florida, and some of these bigger touristic states, to show these states like, hey, there's more than tourism here. Like, let's put local dollars back in local pockets. Even though tourism is awesome, and we definitely support that, right? We love a good vacation and seeing new places, but
localism.
But
I don't know
what matters
localism
is like what's in our own backyard, right? And so yeah, definitely the South States. You'll see us in the next 3 years, but you'll for sure see us here all throughout Utah within this next year.
Todd, Steph, I want to ask you a question, because as Kysie was talking about how we didn't get here with just one person, I like to ask people this to get them really thinking. Imagine your life if there wasn't collaboration. What would exist, right? Usually your phone has to go, because that was created with collaboration. Your car has to go, because that was made with collaboration. Even the clothes on your body. Is there one thing that you can name in your life that exists because of one person?
No.
That's cool, right? It's like community and humanity, and everything that we know of today is created through collaboration and people working together, which is phenomenal. Like, if you look back in human history, all the communities and how they rose up was because of people working together, and most importantly, sharing knowledge, being able to share information so that we could expand on it and we could use it and pass it down generation, which is how we've been able to like evolve and gain new ideas. And I think sometimes people are like, I'm self-made. You know, this business is me and I've done it. It's like, but you had influences, you had mentors, you had people that inspired you. Even then, that's collaboration, and there's no such thing as self-made, really.
No, absolutely. And the truly successful people admit that, meaning they flat out say that yes, people can say I'm self-made. A lot of times people we give that attribute to people, and they're going, in reality, I'm not. There's nothing about it that was self-made. It was collaboration, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're totally right. Those who are successful often know that they got there.
They're thankful. They're grateful. They express that publicly. You know what I mean? Express that. And really, when you have that thankful heart, I mean, that just draws everything, all the negative, all the negative in your life, all of the excuses, all of the garbage, what I call the garbage of life. It just goes out the window when you approach it and come again collaboratively and focus upon people's strengths and focus on what they bring to the table, and as far as positively bring to the table. It's just there's just nothing better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think gratitude is actually so, 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 so important. And sometimes when we get stuck in like the trenches of entrepreneurship, it's when we have a partner event come up or something that we get to go and meet a new partner or experience their activity for the first time. I come home so grateful and so ecstatic. I'm like, yes. And it gives me fuel for the next little bit to get through the tasks that I'm not very enthusiastic about. And it's
Right.
being grateful to have a job or a company that I get to work with really cool people, and I get to get a piece vicariously of their passion, right? And like
Right.
will be just as passionate about what they're doing as they are, and that's really fun and thrilling. And it makes me really grateful for what we get to do, and it always fuels me to get on through the next thing. And I think gratitude and like practicing that, and even the small and little things, being grateful for, is powerful and will fuel you. So I like that you brought up gratitude, because I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind, whether you're an entrepreneur or, aspiring to be something better. Being grateful for where you are and even having the mind to want to go further is important.
Exactly. Hey, with that in mind, and really what you were talking about there is just being intentional. Is really what you guys are talking about, is being intentional.
Yeah.
Make a decision, go for it, be intentional with what you're doing. Which, idiot to genius, it's the process by which the individual right to fail unleashes the unlimited potential to succeed. In summary, it's called freedom.
Thanks for push and play and listen to this episode, and make sure to check out the show notes to learn more about our guests.